The Mark Carney middle power speech. We live in interesting times, as the old Confucian adage goes. I write this in light of the inspiring speech delivered by Canadian PM Mark Carney at Davos. The Mark Carney middle power speech. His leadership at this time provokes comparison with that of our own PM, Anthony Albanese. Labor has come to power federally down under on the back of being a small target as political strategy. This continues to infect this government and its leadership, I find. The elephant in the room is, of course, Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States. I wonder for how much longer will Albanese duck and weave in the face of this wrecking ball of the old international order. You know, I am reminded of the wife in a domestically violent relationship when I think of Albo. Trump is the bullying husband, of course. There are children involved, which makes everything worse and much more complicated. The pretense that things are not that bad hangs over this marriage. The black eyes and bruises may have faded somewhat. Making herself a small target by not offending him is the strategy. Putting on a brave face and cheerful face for the sake of the kids is a part of it too. He has amassed a hell of a lot of big sticks along with all the wealth and power. She feels small and weak in comparison. He is, by his nature, wildly unpredictable and prone to making offensive public statements. Hell's bells, he lies a lot about everything. Is it any wonder that she tries to avoid confrontation? And yet wife-beating bullies don't get any better via compliance. Indeed, their behaviour gets worse. Perhaps we could extend this analogy and call one of the couple's children AUKUS, a strange name to be sure, but a name inherited from a previous administration. What do you do if you have invested so much in a security alliance with a violent and unpredictable partner who has no respect for an international rules-based system? It makes you complicit in the destructive behaviour of this individual and what he wreaks upon the world. So you put up with the slights and blows, wishing that someday it will be over somehow. Canadian PM Mark Carney, however, has called it out for what it really is. Carney has warned about ongoing compliance with a hegemonic power and how it steals your sovereignty and self-respect. Being a vassal state to an unruly and violent lord means a road to further degradation. Australia thinks, perhaps, being so much further away, geographically speaking, that if it keeps its head down, it will weather the storm. The one raining hard upon Venezuela, Greenland, Denmark, Gaza, Ukraine, and Canada for sure. Many Australians would like to see Prime Minister Anthony Albanese stand up for what is right and condemn loudly what is wrong, to find the courage to call out the law-breaking, bullying, cruelty and corruption, to take a maple leaf out of the middle power speech by Carney and join those who stand for an international rules-based system. Albo is a political animal, and as he sniffs the breeze, we can only hope that he finds the middle path to a renewed sense of independence among like-minded brothers and sisters. Middle powers unite in standing strong against the threats of a major power led by a chaotic bully. That AUKUS child should be put on hold until we can see the lie of the land ahead. A review into its viability or some such excuse. Do we really want further American military bases on our soil? Labour leaders from the post-Second World War period would be rolling in their graves. There comes a time when a leader must decide upon which side of the line he or she stands. Mr. Albanese, that time is now. The psychology behind strongman leaders. Authoritarianism is in the news of late. President Donald Trump is back in the White House and 76 million Americans voted for him. So, what is the psychology behind strongman leaders? Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, and Chairman Mao were three much loved and feared strongman leaders in their time. The father archetype comes into play here, the father of the nation. Studies into who and why this phenomenon occurs have revealed certain elements common to most authoritarian leaders. Traditionally, the role of the father in families includes disciplining the children. It is this aspect of the father which can determine the proclivity toward embracing the strongman leader among subjects and the citizenry. A belief in the authoritarian father figure. Ask yourself, was your father a disciplinarian? Did he play the strongman role in your family? Many adherents to authoritarianism studied have shared the fact that their own fathers were inclined to this behaviour. Often a mix of threats and actual violence were well remembered by the children of such fathers. The demarcation of parenting roles in traditional family structures saw the mother as the emotional nurturer and the father as the lawgiver of the outer world. The father was tasked with the responsibility of ensuring that the children knew the social rules governing the greater community beyond just the family. Thus, the disciplinarian would threaten and hurt the children if those roles were transgressed. This fear-inducing aspect contributes to the psychology behind strongman leaders. The disciplinarian father of the nation. This experience imbued these individuals as they grew up with a respect for this behaviour as necessary. Indeed, for some, it has meant that they only respect leaders who act and speak in this manner. The manifestation of this strongman authoritarianism reflects this aspect of their relationship with their own father. This can develop into the cult of the father of the nation, as happened with the Führer in Nazi Germany, Chairman Mao in China, and Stalin in Russia. For many years, even in the face of mounting evidence as to the mass murders instigated by these strongman leaders, millions of citizens remain steadfast to these fathers of their nations. The cult of the father can appear irrational to the outside observer in such instances. It seems that human beings can tolerate a great deal of harm being directed at designated groups within their populations if the strongman leader says that it is necessary. These supporters will believe tissues of lies and just go about their business. Why strongman leaders always lie? All authoritarians lie to their supporters and citizenry. Another common factor to strongman leaders is their proclivity toward telling lies to the people. Parents and fathers in particular often tell lies to their children on the basis that they are protecting them from things that they would not understand. In every American movie I've ever watched, parents are always lying to their kids. That film scripts feature this tells us that it is part and parcel of American culture. The current prevalence of conspiracy theories everywhere you look in America is, in my view, a reaction to all this lying over decades and centuries. A belief in conspiracy theories is predicated on a deep distrust in what your governments and leaders have been telling you. Add in what your parents may have been telling you too, or not telling you, as the case may be. If the dynamic present in the strongman leaders is parent to the child, then this lying can be comprehended. If your leader is a compulsive liar, like President Donald Trump, it presages all sorts of troubles for those people and their nation. Tough guys want strongman leaders. Interestingly, you get a lot of outwardly macho guys supporting strongman leaders. It seems that they wish to see their own determinately aggressive approach to life reflected back to them in the behaviour of their leaders. Muscle-bound blokes driving utes and pickup trucks respond to confident-sounding strongman leaders. They perhaps understand the lies being spun as similar to the lies they tell their own wives and girlfriends, as matters of convenience rather than real betrayals of trust. The man in charge has to tell a few porkies every now and then. The psychology behind strongman leaders embraces this. Unfortunately, it is the grey matter between the ears and not how big your muscles are which will determine the soundness of who you might be following, politically speaking. Trump the salesman, strongman leader. President Donald Trump has made an art form out of tailoring the content and style of his public speech to working men and women in America. This billionaire who grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth has perfected the everyman mask when taking the hustings. It amazes me that folk are so naive as to respond to such an act from a celebrity TV star. I suppose it is like country and western music, where the words and language used in the lyrics are far more important than the tune. If human beings hear that someone is talking their language, they become like putty in the hands of grifters. Salesfolk are taught to mirror back the mannerisms and expressions used by the prospective targeted customer. People like to hear themselves being acknowledged. Well, he sounds just like me. I'm going to vote for him. National security is the strongman's best friend. The psychology behind strongman leaders is activated powerfully when national security is perceived as being threatened. Therefore, authoritarians will invariably invoke such anxieties via military actions. Hitler started World War II and thrust Germany into endless wars for 6 years until its final defeat. Communist China and the USSR were at their start under attack from the capitalist world, which detested their revolutions. A siege-like mentality builds up within the populace, which is fed by propaganda. Napoleon in 18th century France was under similar pressure following the revolution there, and he would respond in kind by invading European empires both east and west. Us against them is a powerful binding message for a population. Strongman leaders want to appear to be acting decisively in the face of perceived threats. False flag operations might be engendered like Vladimir Putin did with the Chechens to assume power in Russia. President Trump illegally invading Venezuela and snatching its president is an example of such shenanigans. ICE is Trump's paramilitary force. Authoritarians always have close ties to paramilitary forces. ICE in America is going around killing Americans under the guise of being focused on illegal immigrants. In reality, this is a large, well-funded paramilitary force being employed in American cities to control the populace. Protest against President Trump is being met with an iron fist when it comes to ICE and its wide remit to arrest and hold suspected illegal immigrants. In reality, they have wrongly detained hundreds of American citizens in their raids. ICE is not really all about customs and borders. Beating up on brown-skinned Americans is a white supremacist motivated campaign. Violently meeting resistance to their activities is another purpose-filled policy designed to produce fear and anxiety in the American population. The United States, under strongman Trump, is becoming like Putin's Russia. The psychology behind strongman leaders is all about fear in the end. White women overwhelmingly voted for Trump. I suppose the most disappointing demographic in America are white women. How this group could vote for a sexual offender and convicted felon over a Kamala Harris was most surprising. There must be an enormous residual amount of ingrained racism present, if not gender traditionalism. The fact that the United States has never elected a female president, and it is now the 21st century, tells us something about the country. Every man, woman and their dog knows that Trump is a compulsive liar and a crook. He has been grifting for decades and screwing vulnerable folk along the way. The psychology behind strongman leaders obviously appeals to many white American women. Whether this is a deeply felt belief that he will protect them from blacks, liberals and hordes of non-Anglo-Americans, I don't know. Something must be going on for these women to feel more comfortable with a crook running the show than a woman of mixed race. If you cannot trust your leaders, we live at a time of increasing uncertainty about everything. I personally am deeply disturbed by the rise of Donald Trump and his cavalcade of unceasing lies. If you cannot trust your leaders, we are fucked. Australians no longer view Americans as sharers of similar values. I mean, who could re-elect Trump to the presidency after knowing who and what he is capable of? The world is enraged and anxious about the actions of President Trump. His application of economic tariffs at unprecedented levels upon allies and close friends upset billions of people. Trump's unilateral actions in invading Venezuela and threatening Greenland and Canada have destabilized the geopolitical world. The US dollar dominance has been shredded by these actions and more. Nobody wants to buy US treasuries any longer, and China is selling its hundreds of billions worth of bonds in record time. The United States lacking leadership worthy of trust. The United States is no longer viewed as the rock upon which the global economy was based. It is rather a sinking ship with Trump at the helm. What could we expect from the strange choices chosen to fill positions in Trump's cabinet? Celebrity pay TV types, extremists, white supremacists, and billionaires with dodgy track records. These characters were straight from the dregs of central casting. Who's going to save you? Not these folk. 1 million Americans lost their job under Trump in 2025, and that figure is only going to rise in 2026. Inflation is beginning to increase, and the economic figures are less cogent because of the longest ever federal government shutdown in 2025. If you cannot trust your leaders to tell you the truth, you are on a path to destruction. Lying Trump diminishes the office of president. ICE is terrorizing Americans at home in their cities via a very large paramilitary force intent on causing trouble. Renee Good was an unarmed American mother protesting the heavy ICE presence in Minneapolis. She was murdered by an ICE agent whilst trying to avoid confrontation. He shot her in the face 3 times from point-blank range. Trump's goons and minions immediately lied about this uncalled-for shooting murder. Renee Good carried a whistle, whilst her masked killer was heavily armed in paramilitary style. This is Trump's America. Slurs about the sexuality of the victim were immediately voiced on social media in hateful tirades by MAGA types. What is it about these men and their fear of women? Tiny penis syndrome? Blokes that dress up in battle fatigues and carry firearms to attack women and protesters who are all unarmed. What weak pieces of shit, and they are so gutless they wear masks. Who are these ICE agents? Imagine the kind of person that does this job for the money. Apparently they get a $50,000 sign-on bonus, doing the dirty work for Nazi nut jobs like Stephen Miller. Eventually this will come out, despite hiding behind the mask. Their kids will find out down the track. Imagine having to tell your kids this. People ask about how the German SS could do what they did, murdering innocent human beings. Visualize explaining to your children why you beat up and murdered fellow Americans for money. Talk about being a low-life and moral coward. What is wrong with America? You could say that this exemplifies what is so wrong with America, that many Americans will do anything for money. It is a soulless place. Authoritarian Christian nationalists bang on about what is currently wrong with America, but they rarely point the finger at the transactional nature of its culture. I mean, they follow Donald Trump. A less Christian kind of guy would be hard to find. Fascists are always fine with corruption, as long as it is going to their associates. They want to beat up on and impose onerous restrictions on everybody else. The same shit went on in Nazi Germany, Mussolini's Italy, and every fascist regime that has ever been. Make America great again for a select few, whilst the rest keep their head down or get it kicked in. That is what ICE is really all about. They are Trump's paramilitary force. If you cannot trust your leaders. You've been listening to Robert Sudha Hamilton. He is the author of What Price Life? America Matters, Pre-apocalyptic posts and essays in the shadow of Trump, and other titles, now available at Apple Books and Google Play Books. You can read all about what he has to say at Midasword, midasword.com.au. Thanks for listening.